グレート大優 Hello and welcome everyone to this week's countdown until Champions of the Asia Circuit, looking at the Dimension Police support. And I'm really hyped to talk about some cards this week that did get revealed this episode, this stream. And we actually have quite a lot to go through this week. There's been a lot of reveals over this week, both from monthly Bushiroad and the cards of the day and the live stream. So we're going to go over everything, kind of analyzing everything in its worth, both in standard and premium. Because I don't remember in which order everything got revealed, we're sort of going to go in the order of grade. So we're going to start with the grade zeros. We found out the starter, which is obviously Daiyusha, and people thought that maybe this would have a different skill just because Kote didn't mention it specifically, but it's the same skill as always. When you're right on top of it, draw 1, which is perfectly fine, honestly. But in premium, actually, the old Daiyusha will actually be really good because now with the new stride rules, Daihawk isn't as important, so you can just turbo your way to grade 3 really early, and then you'll get first stride anyway if you go first, so I think it's definitely pretty damn good. And then the other grade 0 that obviously doesn't need much explaining is Diamond Ace, as this is our draw perfect, or perfect draw trigger, whichever you wish. And you know, it's just the same skill as always, but it's nice that we got the card actually revealed. Then, moving along, we have Dielander in the grade 1 section, and this one's actually quite nice. He has a continuous rearguard skill. If your Vanguard's power is 30k or greater, your opponent cannot intercept. So this is actually quite good, because this way, this is going to combine with another few cards that we're going to see in this video actually. But this does work quite nicely on its own, because it's quite flexible. Just the only real thing you have to satisfy is having 30k power or greater on your Vanguard, but blocking intercepts I think is overall a nice thing, but it's even better if, for example, Aquaforce becomes meta, because with Axel clans they do have more front row rear guards, meaning they have more abilities or possibilities to intercept, and therefore being able to block that intercept now isn't just blocking 2 units that can shield, but potentially 3 or 4 or even 5, so I think it's actually, you know, it's gonna get better depending on how meta Axel clans will be. So I think in the sort of, you know, in the times when the Axel clans get really good, that's when this card will shine even more. So, you know, maybe when like the Force and the Protect clans are more meta, you'll play like 2 of him, but when the Axel clans are really meta, then maybe you'll play like 4. So I think it's overall a good card and has a lot of possibilities to see play in standard. In premium, I could see it, but I think in Gallop you have quite a bit of tight space in the grade 1 lineup, and there's a lot of other good grade 1s that already have been revealed. And then I think in Dimensional Robos it's kind of alright, but I think again we do have quite a few good grade 1s as well. You know, a lot of these new grade 1s can replace Yuka, for example, but you know, I don't think that was a big question to begin with, but I think overall it's a pretty good grade 1. Next we have a rare in Dimariner. So his skill is also quite nice. When you call him, you Soul Blast 1, and then choose one of your Vanguards, and for the battle that unit attacked during this turn, while your opponent calls Guardians from their hand, they must call 2 or more at the same time. This is really nice. The only sort of worry of mine here is that it costs Soul Blast every time you call it, and I'm not sure if you can really sustain the Soul that well from the cards we've seen so far, because apart from things like Die Brave and Die Tiger that put themselves into the Soul under a certain condition, we don't really have that much Soul Charging going in the clan right now, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to actually use this skill that often. And in premium, this is a little bit of a turnoff because one, this doesn't, you know, this is only for guarding from hand, so if they G-guard it doesn't do anything, and the soul is quite precious. I think in Dynexus you could maybe play this because there it's sort of like, it's kind of interesting because it has a nice interaction with Magna Diebird in the sense that like when they call something they have to call it twice, so I think I kind of like that. But I think overall it's gonna be interesting. I think, like I said, in Dynexus this could see play. In Standard it's gonna be good because we don't really use the soul. Well, actually we do use the soul quite a lot with these units, but we'll see if there's anything that, you know, takes away from that, or if it helps us build up more soul over time without just having on-hit effect. But I think overall it's quite good, but I don't think it's going to see play in Gallop nor in Daikaiser either. But what is nice, however, is that this pairs up really well with the grade 1 we just saw, because by blocking off intercepts and then blocking off this sort of hand guard in Standard, that's going to be really strong, because against things like Battledore, opponents would often just like intercept or something and that would be it. That way they don't have to actually use up the guard from hand clause, but here because they cannot intercept, they have to guard from hand, and then you will be eating up 2 of their cards at least, or 3 if they perfect guard. So I think it's actually a really nice unit, and it pairs up with our other grade 1 really nicely. Now taking a look at grade 2s, we have Cosmobeak, who's also rare. When you call him, you may counterblast 1, and then this unit and one of your Vanguards gets plus 5k until end of turn. I think this is going to be quite good in Standard, because as we've noticed, a lot of the Standard decks have been sort of, focusing more on building up numbers, making sure you can hit for magic numbers consistently. So I think this is going to be good, because on turn 2 you can swing for 15, on any turn really you can swing for 15. The only problem that this might cause is that you might run through your counterblast quite fast. But I think this could be like a 3 of maybe, because I think it's overall a good card already, and being able to build up power quite easily even in the early turns is going to be good, and with the power thresholds and stuff that the clan asks for, I think it's going to be quite helpful overall. So I'm not going to discount him just yet. I don't think he's the flashiest of the grade 2s we've seen so far, but I think he does show some promise, but only really in Standard. And then the Miracle Beauty line got some new cards, and we're going to take a look at the grade 2s first. So the one that actually surprised me the most is Miracle Cutie. So her skill on Rearguard Circle is when her attack hits a Vanguard, if your Vanguard's power is 30k or more, you can draw a card. This is really nice because you can drop her on a force circle, and then she's pressuring with big numbers, and it's like not just your Vanguard that's big and has a lot of pressure, but it's also your Rearguards now that have some pressure. So I think this is definitely going to see play, and it's just a common too. So I think in Premium it won't, because it's not searchable, because it doesn't have the Dimensional Robo name, but I think in Standard this is definitely very nice. So it is a good card, it has nice on-hit pressure, the threshold is basically nothing and has no cost either, so it doesn't go to Soul, you don't have to Counterblast or Soul Blast for it, so I think Miracle Cutie is actually a really nice card. And then we got Miracle Dandy, and his skill is in the Guardian Circle. If your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, he gets plus 10k shield. Nothing too important. I think Spike's got a similar card. This won't be really too good, and I don't think it's going to see much play either. And then the best part of the grade 2s, which is our triple rare Dragon. Now this guy is really nice actually, and he kind of got overshadowed by the other card in the stream that got revealed together with him, but I'm going to give him some good time in the spotlight too. So his first skill is an act on both Vanguard and Rearguard circles once per turn. You can Soul Blast 1, and one of your Vanguards gets plus 5k until end of turn. So this does mean that if you ride into him, you can also use the skill to make him a 15k attacker, but you're mostly going to be using him on Rearguard circle to pump up your Vanguard by 5k instead, I think. However, the second skill is what I really like. If your Vanguard's power is 35k or greater, he gets plus 10k. This is a continuous skill, and it doesn't say on your turn, so first, obviously in Standard, if you can go through like 3 triggers in your damage zone in one turn, you can put him up to 20k, so I guess that's something. But what's nice about him in Premium, and there's a lot of nice points about him in Premium actually. One, he has the Dimensional Robo name, meaning that he's searchable off of Great Earth. 2, you can build up your Vanguard's power on your opponent's turn with your G-Guards, meaning that you can, get maybe like 1 or 2 damage triggers, and then with the G-Guards you can actually get that other skill off in your opponent's turn, which, like, I'm focusing too much on that opponent's turn thing. It's actually not that important, but the nicest part is that he's searchable off of Great Earth, and I think that's a really big point, because this way you can convert your soul into pushing for even nicer magic numbers, because suddenly, like on a Dimax turn, this is going to be breaking the, just giving you another magic number in most Premium matchups, where your opponent's Vanguard is going to be 11k usually. And then on top of that, his threshold with strides is really easy to accomplish, like breaking for 35k is really not that hard whatsoever, so I think he is a really nice card overall. Just has really nice number pressure. Hitting for 20k in a Force clan without even having a Force marker is going to be sweet, so I think he's good, builds up numbers on rearguard circles, and does overall a good unit. And now finally we get into the grade 3s. First we're going to finish off the Miracle lineup with Miracle Beauty herself. Her first skill is a Vanguard circle and rearguard circle once per turn. When she attacks a Vanguard, if her power is 30k or more, you can counterblast 1 and stand one of your other Miracle Beauty on rearguard circles. So you do have to have another Miracle Beauty, so that way you basically have to play 4 of them, or at least more than 1. But it's still pretty nice because you can hit that 30k power threshold quite easily, and it's like you can attack with the rear one, and then you can attack with the one on the Vanguard circle, stand the one on the rearguard circle, and then you can still use the one on the rearguard circle, because this is once per turn, but it's once per turn of that unit, so that if you stand a Miracle Beauty, you can't attack, and like the stood one already used up her skill, you can't use it again. But if it's a different, if you have 3 Miracle Beauties, then each of them have an instance of the skill, so you can actually get quite a few of these attacks out, and that way suddenly we're multi-attacking quite a lot in Dimension Police, and I think this is, for a budget build, a really interesting choice. So I think combining her with the regular Daiyusha is going to prove to be a pretty strong budget build, I think, and a lot stronger than you would think compared to a lot of the other clans that have budget builds, so I think it is quite nice. And then to finish it all off, on Rearguard Circle she has the skill that when she stands, you can stand one of your other rearguards in the back row in the same column as her. So I think again that's really strong because you get fresh attacks out of just, standing her for 1 counterblast. Hitting the 30k threshold isn't that hard, and overall, with force markers going through the games, I think this will be a very, feasible choice, and like I said, a really good option for budget. But even in non-budget, honestly, I might even test her out and see what I can do with her, maybe with a bit of a heavier grade 3 lineup. And I think in premium, I'm not really sure because again, not searchable or anything, but the 13k base would be nice, I think, for a rearguard. But it's quite interesting, but it's something that I would have to test, and it's a bit like, I can't really say too much about this one without having tested it in premium, but in standard she definitely does show promise. And finally, the card that you've all been waiting for is the final reveal of Ultimate Dimensional Robo Great Daiyusha. Now, we have seen him appear in the anime, but we weren't really sure what kind of, power thresholds he needs or any kind of condition or discard or anything, but he is actually very nice. First, he does carry the Force Marker, and I should have mentioned that Miracle Beauty carries the Force Marker too, which is part of what makes her so good for budget. But his first skill, which I actually like quite a lot, is when placed on Vanguard Circle, 3 of your front row units get plus 10k until end of turn. This is nice because even if you do ride into it without riding the other Daiyusha, you can buff up your field by 10k each really easily, and that makes it super nice. And I would like to also mention the functionality of this in Premium, that because you can only play 4 of the same card name in the deck, you can use, for example, 3 of this guy and 1 of the old Great Daiyusha in a deck where you Legion with True Great Dai Kaiser. So for example, you can, in early game, maybe Legion with him, and because his skill has the clause when placed, not when ridden, meaning that you will be able to get that first skill off. So if you ride him by Legioning him, well, you don't ride him, but you place him on the Vanguard Circle due to Legion, then you do get a 10k buff on 3 units in the front row. And yes, that does mean that you can potentially put both of those 10k stacks on your 2 Vanguard units and then the 1 on the Rearguard Circle. So I think that makes him quite strong because in this way you can sort of Legion and then give out 10k to your front row, let's say when your opponent's on like 1 or 2 damage, and then after that, you can essentially just, ride the Great Dai Kaiser again, and then Legion into the old Great Daiyusha for that guard break and crit pressure. So I think, honestly, this is a pretty good card, and even in Premium, there are uses for it, which is nice. But the second skill is really what people were waiting for. So in hand, at the end of the battle that your grade 3 Vanguard attacked, if that unit's power is 45k or greater, and it was not placed during this turn, Counterblast 1. Ride this card as stand, and it gets plus 10k power until end of turn. So, some things that we need to immediately mention is that this does ride itself, meaning that you do get the Force Marker, but if you Legion into it, you will not get the Force Marker, so that's an important thing to note. But, you do get the Force Marker in the middle of battle phase, which is really cool. The power threshold really isn't that hard, especially for a Force clan, but by far the most important thing is the clause, and it was not placed during this turn. The "it" refers to the grade 3 Vanguard that attacked, so it can be any grade 3 Vanguard. It doesn't even have to be a Dimensional Robo. It can be like Grand Gallop, it can be an Enigman, it can be anything as long as it was grade 3 and it was not ridden this turn. So you cannot ride a unit and use the skill in the same turn. So for example, you would ride a grade 3, go through your turn, and then the next turn you would activate a skill in the middle of the battle phase to ride him as well. I think this is fine because overall, it's just making sure that things are balanced. Otherwise, I think this would be a pretty broken combo, and I think, it would just be unhealthy, and it clearly cannot be used more than once per turn, which is another thing that's really important to not break this card. The only thing that maybe would have been nice is if it was that your grade 3 or higher Vanguard attack. That way we could do this, kind of shenanigan with Stark where we attack 3 times and then, ride again over Stark, or like with X Gallop, but sadly we can't, too bad. But there's still, like I said, things that you can do with this guy in Premium, and I think he doesn't discount himself whatsoever. So in my opinion, he's a great card. I think you'd play 4, just because, like, sure, you're not going to get that second skill off maybe, like, more than twice, but the first skill is still nice, because even if you ride into it first, without riding any other grade 3, that's still a plus 10k buff that you give out to all of your units, which is, well, not all of your units, but 3 of your front rows, which are your main attackers. So I think that's really nice, especially for something you can do on first ride, you know, to grade 3, so I think that's definitely really cool. Don't forget that in Premium, you can also use Daiyusha to go into this guy immediately, and it'll also proc the first skill, in which, you know, you get plus 10k on your 3 of your front row units. And, you know, well, that's probably not going to go off that often, because if you're using Daiyusha, then you're going to have to clear up at least, you know, one of those front rows. So yeah, it's not actually all that good in that regard, but I think Daiyusha is still good just to ride into Daikaiser. And then, you know, this is also nice because with Daikaiser, for example, the original Daikaiser, you can attack with him and then mid-battle ride into the Daikaiser to proc Daikaiser's skill as well, to have the shield break, and that way you're, you know, pressuring them with a big new attack, and you got a force marker as well, and the guard break. So I think that is definitely super nice, and this makes it a good VR, and honestly, I'm really happy with this card. I think it's really nice. I think it's gonna see a lot of play, and it makes Dimension Police a threat in Standard, and it gave us some fun new toys to work with in Premium as well. So that's it for the cards in this video. There's still quite a bit of the set unrevealed, such as Commander Laurel and stuff like that, but most of the big foils I think have already been revealed. So we've already seen Daiyusha and Daidragon, and now we've seen the VR, so it's mostly just double rares that are left, and a few of the commons and rares. But overall, in Standard, DP is shaping up to be a lot of fun, and I'm super excited for it. Honestly, you could already build basically a full deck with what we have right now, and, you know, just, you know, kind of pretend the triggers are there. But I think honestly this is looking really good. I cannot wait to start testing. You know, there's just basically a week left until the set is out, you know, a week and some days. So next week I think we're gonna have an episode where we look at every single remaining card, so like the triggers, Commander Laurel, and everything else. So, you know, until then, I hope you guys enjoyed what I've shown you so far. Let me know what you guys think of these reveals. Don't forget, you can check out Solemn's videos to check out on all the Aquaforce reveals, since he does talk about those. But for me, it's really just the Dimensional Police focus that I'm concerned with, and I really do love the direction that we're going in. So that's gonna be it for me today. Don't forget to click the bell button, as well as check out the social medias in the description, and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.